Week 9, all 22. And when you're coming off of a loss, Chew, I think this team is an interesting spot just because they're 6-3, but they lost this tough divisional game against the Lions. And it's going to give the coaching staff, I would think, a lot of correctable things to go through heading into the bye.
Yes, there were some good things, but there were also a lot of bad things that happened in the game. The big thing is the day after the game, you go and watch the film, you get yelled at, and you have to flush it as soon as possible. The tough thing is going into the bye week with a loss, just kind of lingers, and your mood isn't the best. But got a tough opponent coming up. Season's not over, but clearly they have to tighten things up and start playing better on both sides of the ball.
Well, one of the things they did do well, we'll start there because there wasn't a ton of it, obviously, offensively, but that opening drive was pretty good. And this Watson catch, I think this is something we need more out of this offense if you're the Green Bay Packers, kind of getting a nice play out of Christian Watson out of the play action.
It's just pretty much a balanced route. Christian Watson is the number one receiver, runs a nice route, puts it in the ground. This is early in the game. A good way to start and a good way to get Watson involved because he has to, in order for this offense to be good, he's got to become more involved. Just an easy play action pass. The nice thing about Watson's route there is if you look, the defensive back has outside coverage.
Yep.
And he's very patient with the route. He gets him to turn his hips, come back. Great throw, timing route by Jordan. Just a good way to start the game.
Yeah, and I like it, honestly, for Christian. I mean, I think we've talked about, Dontavian Wicks and his drops this year, but I think there have been some opportunities for Watson in the past to make a good hands catch that's contested. I think that's good for him. Hopefully that's something he can build off of into the second half. This is a fourth down play for the Lions. This is how they scored their touchdown, their offensive touchdown, I should say, in the first half. It was a fourth and goal from the 5. Packers, get called for a penalty, so they end up getting the ball moved up a little bit. Amon-Ra St. Brown ends up with the touchdown here. Amon-Ra starts at the bottom of the screen here, Chew, goes in motion, and eventually is able to beat Keyshawn Nixon.
This is just a simple one-man route. There is the threat of run. So 9 times out of 10, your defense plays man-to-man here. All Detroit is saying, Amon St. Brown is better than Keyshawn Nixon. It's a different kind of version to the back shoulder throw because if you watch at the end of his motion, he kind of stutters them like he's going to come. I'm sure at some point in time they ran the play where he stutters and comes underneath that one Detroit receiver. It's just Keyshawn Nixon is just a step behind it. It's not horrible coverage, but I mean, it's got to be perfect coverage when you're playing against a hot quarterback in Goff and a really top-notch receiver in Amon St. Brown.
All right, here is the play that I think Packer fans were pulling their hair out all throughout the course of this week and with the bye into next week as well. Packers on the 38-yard line, second and short. And ultimately, this ends up being the play that changed the game. An interception returned for a touchdown from Jordan Love.
Yeah, there's a couple things I want you to watch here. I want you to watch Jaden Reed in the slot because they said he is running wide open, which is true. But I don't think he's the number one receiver. He might be the third receiver. Just watch how the pressure times up when Reed pops open.
Okay, I would say Reed is popping open right there.
And there's pressure. So yeah. Reed isn't even out of his route yet. He's not even out of his route. So he's not a viable receiver. He really has nowhere else to go with it. Okay? This is what I'm talking about, Gabe, but that trying to bite too much off of the apple. Look at all these routes. I mean, they're all deep routes, 15 to 20-yard routes. I didn't think this was a good play call. There's nothing wrong with a 10-yard gain here and your goal to be kick a field goal. You don't have to score a touchdown. You don't have to get greedy. And we all know what happens after this. But the point I wanted to make is, yeah, he's open, but Jordan's already running and scrambling. Can't see him.
Yeah, you mentioned the 3 that, and rolling out to the right here, Chew, kind of going back and looking at this. there's nobody rolling out right. Like you've got an outbreaking route here. I mean, I guess you have. I mean, the only person on the right side of the field would be Jaden Reed because he's running that post route. But even here, you've got a receiver running back toward the middle of the field. Your tight end's down to the bottom here. It just seems like the only viable option was going to be Jacobs, who was blocking initially on the play. It just seems like Jordan's got to know, hey, I start rolling out right, I've got to throw this away.
Throw that away. It's just a bad decision. And we'll see more from the tight view of it right here. Jacobs never had a chance. Jordan's kind of throwing across his body again, which is never a good thing. He's just got to be coached to live to play another day, you know? Yeah. It's just, there's nothing there. There's nothing there. I mean, if I'm Clemens, I'm saying stop trying to do too much. Just take what they give you, and here they're giving you nothing. Throw it away. Live to play another day.
And then this is the touchdown that capped off the opening drive in the second half, and really, to me, Chewy, put this thing out of reach for the Detroit Lions. Just a gashing run on a 4th and short.
Okay, I just want you to watch one thing here, right?
Okay.
On the defense, everyone has gap control, right? Mm-hmm. Now, there's no one outside of Laporta here, wide, all right?
Yep.
So what you have is your corner there is the D-gap player, okay, which means he's responsible for anything outside of Laporta. Quay Walker is the C-gap player. He's responsible for that gap inside Laporta. And it goes along down the line. If a D-line slants this way, the linebacker has to come up opposite. Everyone is responsible for a gap. Watch Quay Walker's effort here as a C-gap player.
So he's right here about to take on Laporta. He's got outside.
Your responsibility is inside of that block. The corner's responsibility is anything outside Laporta. Is that effort? Is that good effort?
I would say not. You can kind of see how everybody crashes. You know, you've got Preston Smith inside of Quay, and everybody kind of, he takes that gap that we were just talking about that's between the guard and tackle here, and he's just able to, the tackle pins down on him, and that's up to Quay to get into that gap, and just has no chance of getting there.
Go to the tight view game. Why are you even worrying about the D gap? You have a man for the D gap. You are set up to control that gap right there. And then just watch. People can watch for themselves. This is part of the problem.
Yeah, that's bad run defense, Chew. That's just bad run defense. I guess just one more time. Again, you can see everybody else kind of crashing into their respective gaps. Like Preston, I love the effort Preston gives to get into his gap here.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay, well now you got to get to your gap, Quay, and he just doesn't get there and ends up being a walk-in touchdown.
Yeah, if he gets to that gap hard, he stops the play or at least slows them up for guys to help out.
So this final one, Chew, is an interesting play to me. The game's probably over at this point. Dontavian Wicks gets wide open in the back part of the end zone. Love throws the ball behind him, and Love, even after the game, said, "Hey, I think this is one that Wicks would want to have back, and thinks that maybe he should have caught this ball." And I guess he should have, but at the same time, I think this ball placement just needs to be a lot better.
It's just a simple boot. Detroit.
Look at all this space here.
Hits on it real hard. There's a great throwing lane for Love. Yeah, I mean, is it the best throw in the world? No, but I mean, it's certainly a catchable ball. And this has been Wick's problem all year long. And the rule of thumb is if that ball hits you in the hand, especially if it hits you in both hands, you got to bring it in. Especially at this point in the game where it's not out of hand yet, but this really puts it out of hand.
Yeah, I mean, it just ends up being a little too far behind him ultimately. I mean, again, but this is just, I think, where this offense is right now. There are plays, I think, Chew, to be made, but nobody's helping each other out. Right? No. Like Wicks could help out Love in that situation, but Love could have also helped out Wicks, and it ultimately just doesn't go the Packers' way. So certainly some things to correct and talk about, I think, for this coaching staff as they head into the bye week. What do you think is the biggest thing that they need to correct for the second half of the season?
Disciplined football, especially defense, they got to play with a little more effort. They got to somehow manufacture some kind of pass rush because that's going to be important because they're in the stretch of their schedule that's difficult and they're going to be going up against good offenses. And, hopefully get a little healthy during the bye week, but they're going to be facing a Bears team that's hungry, that's been beat up by the Packers for years and years and years. And this is going to be their Super Bowl. So if they give this kind of effort, they're not going to win. It's a game they should win, but it takes effort and good play in order to do it. Hopefully they can turn it around against the Bears.
Bye week next week, so we will not have this next week for all 22. But as Chu said, we'll be back after the Packers play the Bears in a couple of weeks.